This is a story about my life. This will be chapter 1. Rooted in hardship, raised for redemption. I didn't grow up learning how to dream. I grew up learning how to survive. I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania on Coal Run Road in Salisbury. As far back as I can remember, life required strength. When I was 5 years old, I was tested for kindergarten and placed directly into first grade. Even early on, it was clear I would always be a step ahead, learning quickly, growing fast, and facing things far beyond my years. The house I grew up in was simple and worn, with shingle siding and no running water or electricity. My mother did everything she could to care for us. She hauled water from a well covered by a heavy concrete lid, lowering a rope with a 5-gallon bucket just to bring water into the house. Bath time meant boiling water on a gas stove, all 4 burners lit, using a large cauldron filled to the brim. She carried the hot water to the bathtub, poured it in, then added buckets of cold water until it was warm enough for us. It was exhausting work, done out of love. I'm the oldest of 3 children. I was born in 1976, my middle brother in 1977, and my youngest brother in 1978. We were close in age and full of energy. One night when I was about 8, my youngest brother was 6. A terrible accident had happened. He fell into a tub of scalding water and suffered third-degree burns, requiring an emergency trip to the hospital. After that, our house was finally received running water and electricity. My mother no longer had to carry water or boil it, especially as my brothers grew more active and mischievous. My youngest brother was very accident-prone from a very early age. When he was 3, we were at my grandmother's house while my parents were gone. He wandered into my uncle's room, picked up a razor-tipped arrow and stabbed it into his leg and pulled it out. He calmly walked to my grandmother, unable to speak clearly, making sounds to get her attention. She didn't realize what had happened until she picked him up and saw blood everywhere. He was rushed to the hospital. Years later came the scalding accident, and then at 12, while playing hide and seek in wet grass at my grandmother's house, he slipped and cut his shin deeply on a piece of glass hidden in the yard. He was fearless and mischievous. In kindergarten, he couldn't sit still long enough to learn, so much that a teacher once asked my mother if she could tie him to his chair, something unthinkable today. My middle brother, on the other hand, was quiet and reserved. And in further chapters, you'll read more about how other accidents that he had ordained. Despite everything, there were moments of joy. We had a large yard with a huge garden. Neighbors would come over and we would all play together, trying to dig a swimming pool, throw mud balls, and running until dark. I had a white albino German shepherd named Snowball and a Pekingese puppy named Twinkletoes. Childhood could feel free and happy until bedtime, when the tension inside our home returned. Every Sunday we went to my grandparents' house for a family meal. My parents fought constantly. My father worked at Coleman Trailers building campers, while my mother stayed home to care for us until we were old enough for her to work. When she did start working, she took a job at the Dollar General. My father was often quiet, withdrawn, and emotionally absent, and the fighting never stopped between the two. Behind closed doors, my childhood became something much darker. From a very young age, my father made me feel unsafe. When I fell asleep in the car, he would carry me inside and touch me in ways no child should ever experience. Later, when my mother worked evenings, he would have my brothers hide while we played games, and during those moments, he would touch me again. At night, he would come into my room until my mother returned home. I was terrified, confused, and alone. In the 1970s and early 1980s, no one talked about these things. No one explained what abuse was or that it was wrong. I truly believed that must happen to every girl. I became shy, withdrawn, and deeply uncomfortable around men. I hid behind my mother whenever we went anywhere. I learned to protect myself by staying quiet, small, and unseen. When I was 10 years old, everything finally came out. One night, my father crossed the line in a way that was even more disturbing than before. The abuse escalated. He changed what he normally did when he was touching me and did something more invasive that he never had. I didn't understand it at the time or have the words to describe it, but I knew instantly that something had shifted, and that was happening was terribly wrong. That change frightening me deeply, and it was a moment that finally broke my silence. It frightened me so bad. My mother came home from work to find me crying uncontrollably and calling for her. I told her what had happened. I heard them fighting downstairs. My father did not deny it. Children and Youth Services became involved. I was questioned, examined by doctors, and subjected to experiences no child should ever have to endure. My father's name appeared in the newspaper. Mine did not, but in a small town, everyone knew. What hurt almost as much was that I was made to live in that house for 2 more years. Although he never touched me again, the town knew, the neighbors whispered, and I carried shame that was never mine to carry. I became a loner, not because I couldn't make friends, but because being alone felt safer. My first crush passed by me because I was too afraid, too guarded, too wounded. I had been deeply traumatized, shaped by survival instead of safety. Healing took years. Forgiveness took even longer. But I did forgive him, not for him, but so I could be free. Even now, speaking the words is not easy. I'm nearly 50 years old, and it is time to tell the truth fully. I was broken early, but I was not destroyed. God was preparing me even when I didn't know him yet. I didn't grow up in church, but I found God in an aftermath, in survival, endurance, and quiet strength he placed inside me. This is the beginning of my story. It does not end in pain. It ends in redemption. Chapter 2 to follow.